Hey gang, we're back into the MS460. Told you guys in the introduction video of me getting the saw. Picked it up for 75 bucks because it had some issues. And I've gotten a lot of the parts in. I've gone ahead and installed them. And I apologize for not videotaping it, but sometimes I get in a groove, and when I get in a groove, I forget to break out the camera. So the last little bits of the puzzle came in today, and those are my starter pawls that come out when you pull the cord, and of course comes with a new spring and a new washer. So I've already installed a new pulley and a new elasto start. Here is the old one, and even though the rope is okay, the elasto start part is in bad shape, so I opted to just go ahead and replace that. And then the pulley has a really big chip out of it right here, so I wanted to replace that, so that's replaced, and it's in here. I put the old pawls back in anticipation of waiting on these to arrive, so they just arrived today. Actually pretty simple to install, so we're going to take 4 screws out, and I'll zoom in a little bit so we've got a little bit better view of this. That might be a little too close. Okay, we've got 4 screws to take out. One is the brake lock handle, and I'll unlock it. That's the long one. The other 3 are the same length. And yes, I am absolutely loving my impact drivers. And don't judge me, guys. I talked about why I did not pick up the Craftsman, and then I told you the prices of the Craftsman and all that. Well, I did a repair on a John Deere STX 38. It was a head gasket replacement. Head gasket was 13 bucks. They didn't tell me that it was out of stock. So I wound up with this tractor sitting here for a week and a half waiting on this head gasket to get here, and in the meantime I had to take one of mine out to go mow this person's yard. So there was an expense on my part just keeping the customer happy. And what wound up happening was they refunded me the 13 bucks that the gasket cost. So I went back into my watch list and found the Craftsman impact driver, the C3 impact driver, and taking that 13 bucks off, I was able to get the thing cheap enough that I was comfortable with it. So yes, I now have 3 impact drivers. One stays in with my other Craftsman C3 stuff, and 2 Black & Deckers stay here close to the or right on the toolbox, and you guys can see they're getting dirty. They are getting used, and they get used all the time. Okay, so we've got that off. Everything's been cleaned out in here. Here is our new pulley, and this little mark right here I put on there because I wound it twice before counting how many revolutions I had on my pull cord. It wound up being a total of 5, so I just use that as a reference mark. All I'm going to do is just loosen this nut right here. This spring and this spring, they are in good shape. So is the washer, so I'm not worried about replacing that. So I'm just going to loosen this enough that I can raise that spring up, get these pawls out, put the new pawls in. So let's get down here and we'll show you doing that. Show me doing that. Here we go. Just a tiny little bit loose. Okay, I've got it just loose enough, and I'm not going to lose my spring tension, but I can now push this spring out of the way, lift the old pawls out, and set the new pawls in. Come on, little feller, get in there. There you go, there's one. And this was the bad one. This one, I'll show you guys pretty close here. A little tricky to get out. But look at that one. That big chip that's out of it there. So that's why I wanted to replace those. I got impatient and went ahead and put the rest of the stuff in there since I had the parts. And I'll show you some of the other things that I went ahead and took care of on the saw itself. Let's get her tightened down. We'll go nice and slow so we keep that spring aligned. I know my hand's in the way, guys, but I've got to keep that spring in alignment. Let me show you here. There's two little pins on there, and that's what rides inside the springs. So let me see if I can't do this just with a ratchet, and you guys can see it a little better. Alright. Let me zoom back out a little bit. Okay. Now, keeping that spring aligned with the pawls. Alright. Let me move things about a little bit so you can see it even better, and go ahead and get this down here. Alright, I've got the pawls lined up with the spring so that it will catch them, and as I tighten, I'm holding the spring still so that that spring will pull down over top of the pins on the pawls. And I'll get that good and tight. Alright, now when I pull that, see how the dogs move out? Whoops, sorry. See how the dogs move out? Okay, well, the dogs engage on the flywheel right here in these little lines that go around it. These marks right here. That's what engages on it. So that's all there is to changing those. No big deal. So I'm going to go ahead and put the cover back on. It's just the reverse. You do have a washer and a bushing here. You have to make sure that stays in place. Just lift your brake arm out of the way. Set it in place, lower it down. Hand start your screws. And if you are going to use an impact to tighten your screws back down, that's okay. But I suggest that if you do that, you do not go full force and let the impact do it, that you hand tighten after you are done. So let's get these other two started down here at the bottom. Started. Now I'll show you what I'm talking about with the impact driver. Going forward, and see how I'm controlling the speed, and I'm just going slow. That's what you want to do. Just go in slow until it stops. Do all four. Then I'm going to come back with my ratchet and finish tightening those down. That way I'm sure I'm not going to strip the screws out, because it's a steel bolt going into a magnesium case. So you don't want to strip those out. Brake back on. Now, what are we going to do next? I'll go ahead and do a different video. Just that way this one's not super long and it concentrates on just the starter. Just the pull start and everything. And of course you want to check. So decompression valve, it is off, so and it grabs just fine. So check complete. Now I'll go around and I'll show you guys everything that I've done to the saw and the modifications and whatnot. So stay tuned.